Welcome to the May 2011 meeting of Bridges and Tunnels, also known as the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority for short. This is a reminder that during the public comment period, public speakers are allowed 2 minutes to make remarks. The public comment period provides an opportunity for speakers to make statements on any issue appearing on the committee agenda. It is not a question and answer session, as the committee schedules are tight and our committee meeting time is limited. The MTA provides multiple forums for asking and receiving information, such as its website, which may be utilized. Despite that discouraging comment, are there any public speakers?
Yes, we have one public speaker.
I'll bet you it's Murray.
Last Friday, I met in Albany with the Commissioner McDonald's representative to discuss road lines in New York State DOT. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Con Edison to discuss making community gardens underneath the high-tension wires in Westchester County and other places. On Wednesday, I'm speaking at the Port Authority. I'm asking their help to redesign truck trailers on rail without putting them on flat cars. I'm working with New Jersey Transit to develop using truck trailers on rail without flat cars. I'm working with the New Jersey Turnpike. I've met with them a number of times on road lines. I've met with the New York State Thruway a number of times to design road lines. I met with the Greenberg Road Marking Committee's people to correct the lines on the streets in Greenberg. Excuse me. In June 6th, I'll be in Washington meeting with Harry Calla, who's the team leader for the manual and uniform traffic devices about road lines and things like that. I met with the CEO of the largest road marking concern on the East Coast to discuss educating his drivers on the best way to mark the roads. I can't get to meet with anybody in Bridges and Tunnels who's in a decision-making capacity. I've made suggestions about the Henry Hudson Bridge to make it work better and line the roads better. I'm ignored. Well, it's this committee's responsibility to look into the situation where I come before you about one of the more knowledgeable people about the lines on roads. I'm working with every major jurisdiction in this area. Virtually every traffic engineer in the United States knows who I am. I've spoken about these kinds of lines at the last meeting of the traffic engineers in January for the second time. And nobody from Bridges and Tunnels will meet with me. When David Sampson was appointed head of the Port Authority, the first thing he said was, if you want to meet with somebody, ask it, we will make it happen. And he did. I again request to meet with somebody in a decision-making capacity at Bridges and Tunnels to discuss improving traffic flow and using correct legal lines. There is no other forum. The website doesn't bring a response from Bridges and Tunnels.
Could you conclude your remarks, please?
When the MTA changes its culture to make it possible for a citizen to ask a question and get an answer, not necessarily to my face, but get it answered afterwards, or arrange for me to meet with somebody, then I will follow your rules. But until then, as I said at a meeting before, you can arrest me again. The judge told me to continue what I'm doing because nobody else talks up. I am here under the direction of the judge's orders the last time the MTA arrested me. I've been perp walked through Grand Central Station, handcuffed with steel handcuffs behind me. You think anything's going to make any difference? Would you like to arrest me again? This time, the pictures that were taken last time and made to disappear will not disappear.
All right. Are there any changes to the work plan?
Yes, there are. You'll see item number 9, revision to the charter.
All right, we'll take that up at the end. Does anybody have any corrections or additions to the minutes of the last meeting? If not, I will entertain a motion that they be adopted. All in favor? Anybody in favor? Oh, okay, thank you. We now turn to our distinguished president,
Okay,
Mr.
we'll move
James
on.
Ferrara.
Thank you. We'll move on to the report on operations, page 13.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. In March, there were 23.9 million crossings, which is a decrease of approximately 600,000 versus March of the prior year, which represents a 2.3% decrease in traffic. Looking at factors that affect travel, weather in this March was cooler than the year before. We even had a light snowfall. On the other hand, rainfall was a little bit less than the prior year. The big factor seems to be gas prices. Gas prices rose to $3.63 for the month, which is 31 cents higher than February and 81 cents higher as compared to the previous March. Looking at other trends, Easy Pass crossings were up 2.9% for the month. Cash crossings were down 18.6% versus last March. Passenger travel was down 2.3%, and truck traffic was down 2.4%. At our facilities, all facilities had fewer crossings with the exception of the Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens crossings, which were up a modest 0.4%. Finally, looking at the next month in April, the current estimate is 23.6 million crossings, which is about 1 million fewer crossings than April of 2010. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Yes. In April? Well, we haven't really begun to analyze it. Next month I'll have that report for you. But again, it's gas prices, and gas prices have escalated even further than they were in March. They're probably averaging around $4 a gallon. And compared to a prior year, it's probably about a 33% increase, I would say, about over $1 more than April. That would seem to be one of the driving factors. But we'll have a more complete report next month.
We'll move on to the customer environment survey, page 27. Vice President Jim Fortunato, operations.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bridges and tunnels striped 2,026 linear feet of roadway in the first quarter of 2011, and we filled 4,592 potholes in the first quarter. Our collision rate is for the first quarter is 4.52, which is 9.7% higher than the first quarter of 2010, and our collisions with injuries is 6.5% higher than the same period in 2010. We are still below our yearly target of 5.14, and we're at 4.52 actually right now, so we're on our yearly target. I also would like to let you know that we have met our Easy Pass toll lane availability goal of 99.5% Easy Pass lanes available for the quarter. And I would like to bring your attention to page 29, where we have introduced our new travel time matrix comparing one facility's peak travel time to another. If you have any questions, it's on page 29. And in order to improve reporting, B&T is introducing this report, which is a new metric that standardizes the travel time performance across all facilities. Percent of vehicles traveling above 30 miles per hour during weekday peak periods. If anyone has any questions, that completes my report.
Okay.
Okay. We'll move on to the Easy Pass performance report. Don Spiro.
Thanks, Jim. Easy Pass report begins on page 35. Our Easy Pass market share was 79.9% in March, up more than 4 percentage points from a year ago. The stronger growth this year than in the past is likely due to a combination of the December 30th toll increase and also lower discretionary cash travel from the higher gas prices that Dave noted. Almost 13,000 Easy Pass accounts were opened in February, including more than 3,000 Easy Pass on-the-go accounts, which is approximately 23% of the total. EasyPass accounts open for the month, and we're up to 98,000 on-the-go tags that have been sold since the program began, about 78% of which have been registered. Just one more thing on EasyPass. Last month, we were asked to provide an update on how we reach out to our Spanish-speaking EasyPass customers. The way the system currently works is if a Spanish-speaking person calls our EasyPass customer service center and either requests a Spanish-speaking CSR or has difficulty communicating in English, the call is transferred to a customer service representative who speaks Spanish. But we're now in the process of upgrading these services for these callers. We'll be doing three things. First, a Spanish language application will be available for download off the EasyPass New York website. That will be available this summer. Second, we're implementing a Spanish language IVR, interactive voice response system, that will be operational this fall for those customers who call the 1-800-EasyPass phone number. And finally, there'll be a new Spanish language EasyPass New York website, which will also be in place this fall, and that's for those customers who prefer to access their EasyPass account through the web as opposed to the phone. And we'll obviously keep you informed if there's any changes in that schedule, but that's the way it looks right now. The summer for the applications and the fall for the IVR and the website. That concludes my EasyPass report. If there's no questions, I'll move on to the financial report. Yes,
I actually have a
Go ahead,
question.
Alan. You go first.
There was a problem with the Port Authority. I guess it was Mother's Day of the last this past couple of weeks ago, where there was either a management failure or an employee sick in a situation where there weren't enough people. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but enough people at the toll booths, causing huge traffic backups. In some instances, 5 and 6 hour delays for people getting back into New York. And my understanding is the Port Authority responded to that in some public meetings and suggested that in the future, were such to occur, that they had the technology in place to be able to allow people to go through and bill them and not hold traffic up for that length of time. Have we looked at contingency plans in the event, particularly on holiday weekends where we're overstressed, were there to be a lack of personnel available to operate the cash lanes?
The agency has a predetermined protocol on heavy traffic volume days, such as weekends, summer weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. The protocols include manpower. As such, I would like the Vice President of Operations define that, if you may. But there are several protocols that can be met at bridges and tunnels that would alleviate that type of condition or situation. We've been operating the facility since 1964, never having to make that type of decision. And now that we have a large amount of EasyPass, I don't see that occurring. But I will let Jim advise you on the protocols in place.
Commissioner, our bridge and tunnel offices have a broadband title, so people who work on the plaza or in the toll lanes or on the tow trucks or at the desk areas or do our patrol work are all qualified to collect tolls. And on holiday weekends and summer weekends, we actually bring in additional people to do additional patrols or additional wrecker response or just being on the plaza for assistance or to be used in case we need people in toll lanes. Also, we have the ability to hold over previous shifts and bring in people earlier. And we do have the ability to move employees from one facility to another in the event of an emergency.
So you're saying that the additional status of the officers and others puts us in a different situation than the Port Authority, who I
Yes.
assume had some protocols as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
One caveat I'd like to add, Commissioner, is that the throughput at the Verrazano Bridge is the Staten Island Expressway has a situation whereby there most of the times where we have more throughput than the Staten Island Expressway can handle. So that's the caveat, that sometimes the traffic conditions moving through the toll plaza are as a result of the negative throughput that associated with the Staten Island Expressway.
Chairman, one other question, if I may. There's been, and I don't know whether you have the answer now, if you could just provide us with the answer. There's been a number of discussions in the newspaper, at least in the clips that I have read, regarding the Easy Pass discounts in New Jersey, depending upon which agency actually issued you the Easy Pass. And I was wondering if you could give us an update, not necessarily today or at some point, as to how we do that. Do we distinguish, that's a better word than the word I was going to use, between the agency providing the Easy Pass with regard to the discounts, and is that common throughout all the agencies, of which there must be 20 in the book, that all issue Easy Pass placards?
I can speak to the issue of,
No, let me speak to it.
Okay.
We offer discount to our New York Easy Pass customers only right now, the Easy Pass discount. Anyone who's not a New York Easy Pass discount customer pays the cash toll.
By New York, you mean
I mean New York
Thruway Authority
right, MTA,
or MTA?
right, or Port Authority
Or-
or the New York Bridge Authority, New York State Bridge
Okay.
Authority. Those four agencies.
Okay.
So any of those will get the Easy Pass discount. If you're not associated with those agencies, if you have an Easy Pass account with another agency, you'll pay the cash toll. And we implemented that a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Is that the same policy that New Jersey is now
It
going
seems to be
through?
very similar. I read the clips also, and it seems to be a similar policy.
for legal reasons, there are no geographic barriers. You can live in Florida and be a New York Customer Service
Right.
Center customer, and you can hold multiple tags. If it's in your economic interest that you use our facilities enough that you want the lower discount associated with, being a member of our customer service center, you can do that. And I would expect the New Jersey Customer Service Center would have the same approach.
The only issue that I had was the issuance of the tag by the Port Authority is considered a New York agency regardless of where you live.
That's correct.
So that one would hope then that New Jersey would make the same lack of distinction, that even though you're a New York resident but have a Port Authority tag, you would still get the discount from the New Jersey agencies. That was my question, because when I read the article, it seemed as if there was a distinction being placed by not the agency that was issuing the context, but the address of the person getting it. And I was unclear as to why that distinction was being made, especially with an agency that is technically New York and New Jersey together, for lack of a better term.
I've only read newspaper accounts, but I thought that the New Jersey toll setting folks were considering the Port Authority to be a non-New Jersey agency. So they're approaching it the same way we do. It's really the customer service center customers
Right.
rather than the state that
Okay.
is the source
As I
of
said,
the... Yeah.
if we could just check to make sure that
Right.
our rules and their rules are the same in regard to that, because it would seem to be unfair if they were not. I'll just leave it at that at the moment. Thank you.
Just pursuing it a minute more, if I might. From a policy perspective, not necessarily from a revenue perspective, presumably the discount is applied in order to encourage people to use Easy Pass. And so if a person from Florida comes through our facilities, he's not going to be traveling in a more erratic or slower pace than a New York driver, although maybe that's true given the demographics. But is this just Balkan thinking that we're talking about here, or what would be a logical reason why we would have this sort of discrimination against out of state drivers?
As I understand it, it depends upon the customer service center, right?
Right.
And they're the ones who issue the tags, and they are the ones who determine the rates within
No.
limits. Is that right?
No,
That's wrong?
you all determine the
agencies
rates.
determine the rate.
We all determine the
Yeah,
rates.
the board adopted in the 2009 toll increase is the first time that we charged a different Easy Pass rate. That's the first time that only our own customer service center customers, or, the New York Customer Service Center, which is operated by Triborough, the Thruway, and the Port Authority, that customers of that customer service center are the only Easy Pass customers who get the Easy Pass discount. And that began in 2009. I believe it was a policy set for revenue increase purposes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Any further questions? Who's next?
I'll move on quickly to the financial report, which begins on page 41. Toll revenue for the first 3 months of the year through March is down 1.2%. It's a reflection of the lower traffic that we saw in January due to the storms, along with lower average tolls and lower traffic from the higher gas prices, again that Dave noted. March revenue specifically was down 1% against the budget. Total expenses were down in March by 16%, primarily due to the timing of maintenance and other operating contracts. Year-to-date, our expenses are down more than $15 million. Labor expenses are down about $4.3 million year-to-date, which includes about $700,000 in lower overtime, 12% under budget, and non-labor expenses are down about $11 million against the plan. Our support to mass transit is approximately $215 million through March, which is more than $19 million, almost 10% better than planned. That concludes the financial report.
Oh, I'd like to help you out there a little bit. All the other agencies have had increased overtime. Yours is down substantially. They're doing a little bit better, but you're still doing fine. And despite the fact that crossings were down and revenues were down, your expenses were down so significantly that you have contributed 10% more, I think, 9.9% more to mass transportation than budget forecast. And this is a bottom-line agency. Our existence is to provide support for mass transportation, and here you have hit the ball out of the park, despite the fact that revenues are declining. So you deserve an awful lot of credit, and therefore you're not crowing enough.
I'll work on that.
We're all very proud of you, and as I have said before, whenever anything goes well from a financial standpoint, the committee takes the credit for it, the board takes the credit for it. Whenever things go wrong, it's the staff that has messed up. But so far, you haven't messed up at all.
We'll move on to the capital program. Joe Keane.
Good afternoon. The capital program report begins on page 53 of the book. In April, there were 5 commitments made with a total value of approximately $5 million. This brings our year-to-date commitments in the capital program to $43.6 million out of a planned year-to-date amount of $63.6 million. There was one major completion in April. That was the replacement of the concrete decks at the Throgs Neck Bridge for $76.7 million, and that brings our year-to-date completion amount in line with what we had planned, $76.7 million. No closeouts were made in April. There are a few changes to remaining commitment dates listed, mainly force accounts that require some additional analysis. Unless there are any questions, that completes my report.
Move on to procurements.
All right, procurements.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon. There are 4 procurements this month totaling about $3.158 million. There are no non-competitive procurements. The 4 procurements in our agenda are competitive. And starting on page 68, the first is a personal service contract with B&H Engineering PC to provide biennial bridge inspection and miscellaneous design services at the Henry Hudson and Queens Midtown Tunnel approach bridges in the amount of $1,105,927 for a period of 2 years. If you please turn to page 70. The next item is an amendment for $1,377,863 that will combine the scopes of services for two related projects under a personal service contract with PB Americas, Inc., which is described as design and design support services during construction for contract BB28, BB81, known as rehabilitation of tunnels, walls, roadway, and drainage, and rebuild tunnel water system at the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. The third procurement on page 71 is a modification to a public work contract with Conti of New York, LLC, for additional funding in the amount of $400,000 to perform as-needed deck and roadway repairs under contract BW89, replacement of the Bronx Approach and miscellaneous repairs to the Queens Approach at the Bronx Whitestone Bridge. The last item is on page 72. It is a modification to a miscellaneous procurement contract with eTransit, Inc., to exercise the second 2-year option for maintenance of the video surveillance system at all bridges and tunnels facilities in the amount of $274,094. Finally, there are no ratifications. Unless you have any questions, that concludes my report.
All right. Are there any questions about any of the procurements? Is there a motion to approve them? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Procurements are adopted.
Okay, if we can move on to the revision to the charter.
Now we
Okay.
have our action item, which is our charter revision.
Page 73.
Mr. Chairman, the last item is that the committee is being asked to approve amending the committee charter so that TVTA will be reporting on safety issues directly to this committee rather than the Safety and Security Committee.
All right. Any questions about the charter revision? Is there a motion to approve it?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Charter revision is adopted. Any
Chairman,
other
I just
business
wanted-
to come before this meeting?
I just wanted to say one
yes,
more
there
thing,
is.
and Jim and I have had this conversation. I just want to thank the agency for the modifications from the Cross Island Parkway to the Throgs Neck. They have substantially benefited many of us who take that roadway, and many Long Islanders and people from Queens. It's now managed to even up the movement between the Cross Island and the Clearview, which has made traffic flow much better. So thank you all very much for that.
You're welcome.
Motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mitch. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Finance.